What's up, everyone? Aaron Nagler here, PackersNews.com, live on Facebook late in the evening on Wednesday. The news just breaking that the Packers will be losing linebacker Joe Thomas to the Dallas Cowboys, who have signed him to a 2-year deal per Todd Archer of ESPN. The Packers did not tender him, thereby making him a free agent. As far as we can tell, no serious interest in on the Packers' part in bringing him back. So, Joe Thomas walks out the door, joins Morgan Burnett as a free agent defectee. I see a bunch of you jumping on. Thanks a lot. Zach, hello. Thank you for joining us. Thought no live tonight, Nagler. I don't know why you thought that, Julian. As I said on Twitter, it was really just a late start today. I've got a sick wife and children to feed that took up most of my afternoon. Devon, I mean, good for them. Well, Joe Thomas actually was in Dallas after he left the Packers originally, and then came back to Green Bay for a couple years, and now is back in Dallas. So the pipeline is alive and well. So the change in scenery is because I'm in the living room, in the corner where our computer is. That's what it is. Views on Mike Hughes. I think he's a good player. I think the height issue may be a problem, but we'll see. Bruce has decided there's going to be no defense again this coming year. It's early, man. They don't play Sunday. They got plenty of months to go. Does Mike Pettin have any say in who stays and who leaves? Miguel, that's a good question. He certainly gives input. They'll certainly ask him about guys and their fit and how he could use them, or what he sees as their strengths and weaknesses. But ultimately, that's Gutekunst and the personnel group's call. The lamp is crooked too. I know, I tried to fix it a little bit, but it's all messed up here. It's late, man. I'm too tired to care. You guys are going to have to deal with the crooked lamp. Think Mike Pettin turns our D around? Nicholas, I do. I still think he's going to need a little help from his personnel group, but I think his scheme is really good, and I think he's a really good coordinator. A little mystified as to what they're going to do at corner, and they clearly seem to believe in the guys they have on hand as far as rushing the passer, whether it's Reggie Gilbert or Vince Beagle making a jump. We'll see. Thankfully, they don't play Sunday. Exactly, Ken. When are we bringing Tramon Williams in? I don't know, Edwin. We talked about that yesterday. I think it makes a lot of sense. He played really well down there in Arizona last year. He obviously has a couple years experience in Mike Pettin's scheme. Seems to make all the sense in the world. That said, they've got plenty of time. I don't see a long queue lining up to sign Tramon anytime soon. Now, I say that, and he'll sign tomorrow somewhere else. But, I think they'll leave that till they deem it necessary. After losing 2 defensive backs, do we trade up and try to get Fitzpatrick or Ward? Mike, I doubt it. You never know. They do have quite a bit of draft capital with 12 picks. If there's somebody that Gutekunst really loves, has a high grade on, and thinks is a transformational blue chip player, I think there's a possibility. But I tend to think he'll let the draft come to him. I go after Reed. I don't care about his protesting. Dude can play. I agree that he can play, and I don't care about his protesting either. But I don't think they're going to go after his safety in free agency. They drafted Josh Jones for a reason. Many reasons. One of those reasons was preparing for Morgan Burnett to walk out the door. Is it realistic that Goodson will be a starter? Whew, I think that's a bit of a jump, Eric. I know they like him as a special teams guy, maybe as a reserve when it comes to the cornerback spot, but I can't imagine that they would be counting on him to be a starter. I've never seen anything from him to suggest that he's ready to be a down-in, down-out kind of guy. I know they love his athleticism. That's why they've kept him around. He's got to learn to stop committing so many bad penalties on special teams. But we'll see. Who does Goodson have blackmailed to still be in Green Bay? Ouch. Do you see Green Bay trade out of the first round? Completely out of the first round from 14? That'd be a big jump. I doubt that happens. Maybe they trade down in the first round, but not out of. Have we made any calls for potential cornerback trades? Not that we've heard of. Now we've asked quite a few people on quite a few different teams and quite a few different agents. And if there is anything going on, we haven't heard about it. Tons of talent left in the market in 2018 is a deep draft for secondary talent. Now, Nick, that is very true on both counts. The cornerback class in this draft is particularly deep, and there are quite a number of guys, as my colleague Pete Doherty wrote about this evening at PackersNews.com. You should check it out. There are a lot of guys that they could sign for a year as a stopgap, kind of like they did Devon House last year. So, including Devon House, he could be brought back. So we'll see. Just my opinion, offense isn't any better and defense is worse. Well, it's fluid, right? I mean, they got a long way to go before it's even begun to look like a complete picture when it comes to roster construction. So, it's incomplete at the moment. Who do you see Green Bay taking in the first via position? Justin, I think it's definitely going to lean on the defensive side. Clearly, I think that makes the most sense, especially with the quarterbacks undoubtedly going possibly even 1, 2, 3, 4 at the top of the draft. That's going to push some premier defensive talent down to the Packers. I could see an edge rusher and I could see a corner. Either one makes a lot of sense. How much talent is left for free agent cornerbacks? Travis, it's nomadic Ronin types, guys that you're going to sign for a year. There's probably the best of the bunch is Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie, who played for the Giants last couple of years, had a visit with Washington, called off a visit with the Saints, and has said he is fine waiting until April to sign. So, that's a possibility, though I'd be surprised if the Packers went that direction. Like I said, Tramon Williams is still available. Devon House is still out there. There are a bunch of other guys. Maxwell is still out there. There's a few players that they could get for a year. Aaron Nagler is the next Packers GM. Nobody wants that. How many touchdowns will Jimmy have this season? Whew, that's a good question. Staring at my crystal ball, I'll say 8. Would you rather have House or Williams as a veteran addition? Myself, John, I'd much rather have Tramon Williams. I think he's a better player. I think he's better all-around corner. And he knows the scheme. Devon House has never played in Pettin's scheme, and Tramon Williams has. With Morgan gone, is HaHa the head guy on defense? If you mean the guy who kind of like gets them lined up and is the communicator, what have you, I tend to think that'll fall to Blake Martinez. He's had that role before. But if you're talking about the veritable leader on defense, the vocal rah-rah guy who, rallies the troops, so to speak, the emotional leader, if you will. I don't know, it's a weird dynamic with HaHa. I definitely think, he's one of the longer tenured guys there at this point, along with Clay and Mike Daniels. But I don't know. I don't really see him as that type of guy. I do think that he's in for a bounce-back year. I do wonder, though, if he even wants that kind of responsibility. Maybe. I think he's much more of I'm going to lead by example kind of guy. Do you think Herb Waters can develop into a corner? I tell you what, if you take Joe Witt by his word, it sure sounds like he has the ability. I just want to see it on the field. I've heard tell of the tale of Herb Waters playing corner for a year and a half now, and I want to see it. But until I get some kind of indication on the field against NFL competition of what he's doing, it's really impossible to say. Is Ty still our number one running back? Gary, I would very much doubt that. I would say it's probably a toss-up between Jamal Williams and Aaron Jones. And once Aaron Jones gets the pass protection aspect of the position down, it'll be Aaron Jones. Will they sign Jordan Matthews? I doubt it. His best work is usually done in the slot, and they got a lot of slot options. Do you think Kevin King is going to be great this year like last year? I don't think he was great last year. I thought he showed a lot of promise. I thought he took his lumps at times. I thought he looked good for a rookie. Obviously, he was dealing with a shoulder injury. That was always going to be problematic throughout the season until he got shut down. I think the potential is there for a big jump. I think he's got all the talent and promise in the world, but a lot of that is up to him. how much he attacks this offseason, gets in that weight room, hits the playbook, and takes to the new scheme. Can Raji develop into a corner? Whew. Good one. How about trade or try for J.J. Watt? That's not going to happen. The Texans signed him to a monster deal. He's coming off 2 injuries. The Packers aren't giving up anything to go get that guy. Think Ty will be the 3rd wide receiver? I think they'll use him all over the place. I think he'll be a matchup guy. I think mostly probably used on 3rd downs and obvious passing situations. I doubt they'll be using him early on 1st and 2nd down like they did early last year. What do you think of Orlando Scandrick? I think he signed with someone, didn't he? I can't off the top of my head remember, but I'm pretty sure he did. I think he was in Washington, actually. Why is Brian Bulaga still on the team? Because when he's on the field, he's one of the best in the business. Problem is, can't stay on the field, obviously. I think they're going to keep their options open there. Mike McCarthy said all the reports are good from Florida, where Bulaga's working out. Bulaga said on the radio that his people didn't hear anything during the combine or any other time, so no news is good news as far as they're concerned. So we'll see. I mean, the Jordy release, there was no real warning there. There was no prelude to it, so I'm sure a lot of the older guys with big cap hits are sitting around wondering. But, yeah, for now, sure sounds like they're going to let Bulaga rehab and see where he's at prior to start of camp. Rashard Breeland, can we sign him regardless of the physical? Well, teams will wait until he's healed. From what I understand, it's some kind of infection with the foot. I think he'll probably get that foot healed up, get cleared by his own doctor, a medical doctor, and then he'll start taking visits again. But no one's going to sign him until that's cleared up. Michael Clark will be wide receiver 3 by week 3. Guy's a beast. Oh, well, he's got the physical tools. There's no doubt about that. He's incredibly raw as a receiver. But, that's one of those guys that could take a big jump from year 1 to year 2. He hasn't played a whole lot of receiver. He's got a lot to learn. But, yeah, you're right about the physical skills. They're definitely all there. Two suggestions to trade Ty Montgomery. He could be potentially attractive to other teams because he's on his rookie deal, so he's cheap. The issue, obviously, is availability. He hasn't been able to stay on the field. It's hard to see teams wanting to line up to grab a guy who can't stay healthy, but you never know. It's a possibility. Do you like Matthews inside this season? Yes. I think they need to stop talking about it and do it more. I know McCarthy always kind of, brushes it aside when we ask about it, saying, we play him all over the place. Well, yeah, but you mostly played him outside. And I understand why. We've talked about that before. They were forced to play him on the outside a lot more than I think they wanted to because they didn't have much behind him. But I think he's best suited for inside backer at this point, and I think they've got to let guys like Vince Beagle and Reggie Gilbert and possibly a draft pick or two take up that mantle behind him because his days of beating, forget elite tackles, but just journeyman left tackles, those days are behind him. He feasts on poor competition to get a lot of his pressures and his sacks. He's stymied by most competent tackles in the NFL these days, but he's still a very effective player, sideline to sideline, breaking down angles, creating havoc. He can still do all that. So I think there's still value there. I just think they got to put him in a position to be successful. I think Clay will move around, need an edge rusher. That's a much quicker way of saying what I just said. Thank you. The 2018 NFL season is over for the Packers. 4-12. Time to prep for a run in 2019. Matt, what's funny is I read something like that today on a blog, and I was kind of blown away. Like, as long as you have Aaron Rodgers, you're always in the mix. Remember that 15-1 season? They had Marshall Newhouse at left tackle. That defense was no great shakes. And they went 15-1. Now, obviously, they got to the playoffs and had an issue, but let's relax on the 4-12 talk. Who could they cut for more cap space? Randall Cobb? Clay Matthews? Brian Bulaga? Those are probably your 3 leading candidates, although I don't see him doing any of that. Are Packers relying on Rodgers to bring in free agents? I don't know if they're relying on Rodgers. I know, like my buddy Pete Doherty wrote there at PackersNews.com tonight. Make sure you check it out. They're not relying on Rodgers, but they are using him in their pitch with agents. Take a little bit less with us, you have a chance at a Super Bowl. But as Pete pointed out, the Patriots are successful doing that because they have Tom Brady, and they have actually gotten to Super Bowls and won them. So the Packers are selling a bit of a dream, whereas when the Patriots say it, there's a good chance it's going to happen. What's the difference there? How much cap space do we have left? Bryce, they're hovering around $20 million under the cap. They'll need about 3 or 4 of that to sign their rookies. So, you take that away, around $17 million. Luke, what would it take to get Von Miller? A miracle. All right, everybody. I'm going to leave it there. Thanks, everyone, for checking in. We'll have the latest on the Joe Thomas signing in Dallas up at PackersNews.com. Make sure you read that. Make sure you read Pete Doherty's piece. We'll have it all for you there at PackersNews.com. If it's happening in Green Bay, we're on top of it. Thanks a lot, everyone. Have a good night.